Before a single word is spoken, before a reaction is given, before an explanation is offered, there is a moment where heaven watches what you will do next. And in that moment, you chose silence. Not because you were afraid, not because you had nothing to say, but because your soul had grown wiser than your emotions. This message is for the one who learned the hard way that not every battle is won with words, and not every truth needs to be shouted to be proven. You have been misunderstood, misread, and even underestimated. But God was shaping something deeper in you. There were nights when your heart was loud, when your thoughts raced, when you replayed conversations and wished you had said more or less or something different. You felt the pull to explain yourself, to defend your intentions, to make sure you were seen correctly. That pull was human. That ache was real. Yet in the middle of that emotional storm, God gently taught you restraint. He taught you that peace is not found in being heard by everyone, but in being known by Him. Be still and know that I am God, Psalm 4:6-10, was no longer just a verse. It became a lifeline. Your silence did not come easily. It cost you pride. It cost you comfort. It cost you the temporary relief of saying what you felt in the moment. But it gave you something far greater in return: clarity, strength, and a quiet confidence that cannot be shaken. While others spoke out of impulse, you learned to pause. While others reacted from emotion, you learned to pray. And in that sacred pause, God began to work in ways you could not see but can now feel. This is not a message about withdrawal or weakness. This is about the kind of silence that carries weight, the kind that calms rooms, unsettles chaos, and reveals maturity without announcement. The kind of silence that draws attention not because it demands it, but because it is rare. You didn't stop speaking because you lost your voice. You stopped because you found your center. And now, without effort, without pursuit, without explanation, others are drawn to what God has cultivated within you. So if you are the one who stayed quiet when it would have been easier to react, who trusted God when clarity was delayed, who chose peace even when your heart was aching, this message is for you. What felt like restraint was actually preparation. What felt like stillness was actually strength. And what felt like silence was God teaching you a language that only the mature understand. There is a sacred power in your silence, and it is not accidental that others are drawn to it. In a world addicted to noise, explanations, reactions, and constant defense, your quiet presence speaks louder than words ever could. You have learned, sometimes through pain, sometimes through prayer, that not every moment requires a response, not every accusation deserves a reply, and not every misunderstanding must be corrected immediately. This silence was not born from fear or weakness. It was forged in wisdom, maturity, and trust in God. And now, without you trying, without you chasing attention, without you proving anything, people feel it. They are extremely attracted to it. Your silence carries weight because it is anchored in confidence, not in security. It is rooted in the understanding that God is your defender. Scripture reminds us the Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Exodus 14:14. You did not arrive here overnight. There were seasons when you wanted to explain yourself, when you felt misunderstood, misjudged, even falsely accused. You rehearsed conversations in your mind, imagining how you would finally say what needed to be said. But over time, God taught you something deeper. That peace is more powerful than proving a point, and stillness can be more authoritative than argument. People notice when you no longer react the way you used to. They notice when chaos surrounds you, yet you remain calm. They notice when provocation is offered, but you respond with composure, or not at all. This unsettles them, intrigues them, draws them in. Not because they control you, but because they cannot. Silence reveals strength. Silence communicates boundaries. Silence signals that you are governed by something higher than emotion. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. Proverbs 16:32. You have learned to rule your spirit, and that authority is magnetic. There is also a spiritual dimension to this attraction. When you stop over-explaining, stop defending yourself unnecessarily, and stop reacting to every word spoken about you. You make room for God to speak on your behalf. Your silence becomes a sanctuary where discernment grows. Jesus himself modeled this. When falsely accused, mocked, and questioned, there were moments he chose silence, not because he lacked truth, but because truth did not need to argue, and Jesus yet answered nothing, so that Pilate marveled. Mark 15:5. Even silence can cause others to marvel when it is anchored in divine confidence. Emotionally, this silence was costly. It required restraint when your heart wanted to speak. It required discipline when your emotions were stirred. It required trust when clarity seemed delayed. You felt the tension of holding back words that could have poured out. You swallowed explanations. You endured misinterpretations. You let go of the need to be understood by everyone. That is not easy. That is human struggle meeting spiritual growth. And God saw every moment of restraint. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 4:6-10. Stillness is not passive, it is an act of faith. People are drawn to what they cannot manipulate. Your silence denies access to those who seek reactions for validation or control. When you no longer feed drama, drama loses interest in you. When you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, their power dissolves. This is why silence becomes attractive. It reveals that you are no longer emotionally available to chaos. You are selective with your energy. You are intentional with your words. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt. Colossians 4:6. Sometimes grace speaks, and sometimes grace remains silent. In relationships, romantic, familial, or social, your silence creates space for reflection. People begin to hear their own hearts. When you stop filling the room with explanations, they begin to notice your absence of reaction and question their assumptions. They replay conversations. They wonder why you didn't respond the way they expected. That curiosity often turns into attraction, respect, or even conviction. Silence allows others to confront themselves without you saying a word. This is not manipulation. This is maturity. There was a time when you believed being loud meant being strong, when speaking up constantly felt like survival. But God matured you. He taught you that not every battle is yours to fight, and not every truth must be spoken immediately. Timing matters. Wisdom matters. There is a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Ecclesiastes 3:7. You learned the timing, and now your restraint speaks volumes. Your silence is also attractive because it is rare. Many speak from impulse, few speak from discernment. Many react, few respond. Many seek validation, few rest in identity. Your quiet confidence unsettles those who rely on noise to feel seen. It comforts those who value peace. It attracts those who are tired of chaos. And it exposes those who cannot stand stillness, because stillness confronts the heart. Spiritually, your silence is a sign of trust. You trust God to reveal truth, to defend your name, to bring clarity in His time. You no longer rush outcomes. You no longer force understanding. You wait. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. Psalm 37:5. This trust changes your posture. You move slower, you listen more, you speak less, but when you do speak, your words carry weight. Emotionally, silence has become your refuge. It is where you process, heal, and recalibrate. It is where God whispers what noise once drowned out. You have discovered that peace is addictive, and you are unwilling to sacrifice it for temporary relief. People sense this. They feel the stability of someone who is not easily shaken. That stability is attractive because it feels safe, grounded, and real. Your silence does not mean you lack feelings. It means you have learned to steward them. It does not mean you are indifferent. It means you are intentional. It does not mean you are weak. It means you are disciplined. Jesus was never weak in silence. David was never powerless in waiting. Joseph did not defend himself in the pit or the prison, yet God elevated him in due time. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that He may exalt you in due time. 1 Peter 5:6. Silence is often the posture of humility before elevation. People are extremely attracted to your silence because it reflects depth. It suggests that you have an inner life, a prayer life, a foundation they cannot see but can feel. It tells them you are not desperate for attention, approval, or validation. You are anchored. And in a world full of noise, anchors are rare. And as you continue walking in this quiet confidence, there will be a moment when God invites you to speak again, not from emotion, not from defense, but from authority, clarity, and love. Until then, your silence remains a testimony that you trust God more than outcomes, peace more than applause, and wisdom more than noise. And as this silence continues to mature within you, something even deeper begins to happen. You start to realize that your quiet is not empty, it is full. It is full of prayer, full of discernment, full of conversations with God that no one else hears. While others assume you have nothing to say, heaven knows you have said everything that matters in secret. Jesus spoke of this when he said, "But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." Matthew 6, verse 6. Your silence before people has amplified your voice before God. There were seasons when you wondered if staying quiet meant losing ground, losing influence, losing connection. You feared that if you didn't speak up, you would be forgotten, overlooked, or misrepresented. But God was teaching you that true influence does not come from volume, it comes from presence. When you walk into a room now, you don't need to announce yourself. Your energy speaks. Your restraint speaks. Your peace speaks. People feel it before they understand it, and that feeling draws them toward you. Your silence has also become a mirror. It reflects ours back to themselves. When you stop explaining, stop chasing closure, stop reacting, people are left alone with their intentions. Some are drawn closer, wanting to understand your depth. Others grow uncomfortable, even irritated, because your silence refuses to participate in dysfunction. It's not your burden to carry. Scripture reminds us, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Romans 12:18. Peace does not require constant conversation. It requires alignment of spirit. Emotionally, you have grown stronger than you realize. Silence has trained your heart to pause instead of panic, to pray instead of perform, to wait instead of rush. You no longer feel the urge to prove your worth. You know who you are in God. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. Colossians 3:3. Hidden lives do not need loud defenses. When your identity is secure, silence becomes natural. In romantic relationships, this silence carries a particular power. It is not coldness, it is composure. It is not distance, it is depth. When you stopped over-communicating, stopped chasing reassurance, stopped explaining your value, something shifted. The other person felt it. They sensed the change. Suddenly, your presence felt rare, your attention felt earned, and your absence felt loud. This is not manipulation. This is what happens when you operate from wholeness rather than need. Love rooted in peace is attractive because it is free, not desperate. In family dynamics, your silence has changed the atmosphere. Where there was once constant tension, explanations, and emotional exhaustion, there is now calm. You no longer enter every debate. You no longer absorb every comment. You've learned that boundaries do not always need speeches. Sometimes they need stillness. Jesus himself said, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine." Matthew 7:6. Silence is often how you protect what is sacred in you. Spiritually, God trusts you more now. He entrusts you with restraint because restraint reveals maturity. Anyone can speak when emotions are high. Few can remain still when provoked. Anyone can react. Few can respond from the Spirit. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. A sound mind knows when to be quiet. A sound mind understands that timing is part of obedience. Your silence has also become an invitation. It invites God to intervene. When you stop trying to control narratives, outcomes, and perceptions, God steps in to do what only He can do. He speaks where you are silent. He defends where you are still. He reveals truth without your interference. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Romans 12:19. Silence is sometimes the highest form of trust. There's an emotional healing taking place beneath this quiet. Old wounds that once demanded explanation are being soothed by peace. Old fears that once drove your words are losing their grip. You are no longer governed by the need to be understood by everyone. You have accepted that misunderstanding is sometimes part of obedience. Even Jesus was misunderstood, yet He never compromised His mission to correct every opinion. He came unto His own, and His own received Him not, John 1:11. Silence helped Him stay focused on purpose, not perception. People are extremely attracted to your silence because it feels safe. In a world full of oversharing, emotional dumping, and constant noise, your restraint feels like refuge. People trust you with their thoughts because you are not quick to judge or react. They feel heard even when you say little. This is a rare gift. Let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, James 1:19. Listening is love expressed quietly. Your silence also carries authority because it is consistent. You are not silent out of mood, but out of principle. You are not quiet because you are unsure, but because you are anchored. This consistency builds respect. People know where you stand even when you don't announce it. Your values are visible in your actions, your boundaries, your calm responses. Words are no longer necessary to prove what your life already demonstrates. There are moments, though, when silence is tested, when injustice arises, when truth is challenged, when love requires voice. And because you have learned silence, when you do speak, your words are weighted with wisdom. People listen because you do not speak often. Heaven listens because your words are aligned. The words of the wise are heard in quiet more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools. Ecclesiastes 9:17. Silence has refined your voice. Emotionally, you feel lighter now, less burdened by the need to respond, less drained by unnecessary conversations, less affected by opinions that once shook you. Peace has become your priority, and you guard it carefully. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. Silence helps you stay full. And as you continue in this posture, God continues to shape you, deepen you, prepare you. There is more ahead, more alignment, more clarity, more moments where your quiet faith will speak louder than any argument. Your silence is not the end of your story. It is part of the process. A holy pause, a sacred space where strength is being multiplied, discernment is being sharpened, and purpose is being preserved. As this process continues, you begin to understand that silence is not something you are doing anymore. It is something you have become. It flows naturally because your spirit is settled. You are no longer fighting to be heard. You are resting in being known by God. That alone changes everything. When God knows you, you no longer need everyone else to validate you. The Lord knoweth them that are His. 2 Timothy 2:19. That knowledge gives you rest, and rest gives you authority. There was a time when your ons ran ahead of your discernment. You spoke first and prayed later. You reacted quickly because you feared losing connection or control. But God slowed you down. He allowed delays. He allowed silence to feel uncomfortable until it became familiar. And now what once felt like restraint feels like freedom. You are free from impulsive words, free from unnecessary explanations, free from emotional entanglements that drain your soul. Silence has uncluttered your heart. People around you can sense that something about you has shifted. They may not have the language for it, but they feel it. They feel your steadiness. They feel your clarity. They feel that you are no longer easily swayed. This is especially powerful in environments where emotions once ruled conversations. You no longer match chaos with chaos. You bring calm into rooms without trying. A soft answer turneth away wrath. Proverbs 15:1. And sometimes the softest answer, there's no answer at all. Spiritually, silence has sharpened your discernment. You hear God more clearly now because your inner world is quieter. The noise of opinions, expectations, and assumptions no longer dominates your thinking. You are attentive to the still, small voice. And after the fire, a still small voice, 1 Kings 19:12. God often speaks in whispers, not shouts. Silence tunes your ear to heaven. In relationships, this discernment protects you. You no longer overinvest too quickly. You observe, you pray, you wait. You allow people to reveal themselves over time rather than rushing to fill gaps with assumptions. Your silence gives space for truth to surface. Those with pure intentions are drawn closer. Those who seek control grow uncomfortable. This is not coincidence. Light exposes even when it is quiet. Emotionally, you have learned to sit with feelings instead of letting them dictate your actions. You acknowledge hurt without broadcasting it. You process disappointment without projecting it. You feel deeply, but you respond wisely. That balance is rare. He that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. Proverbs 17:27. You have become that person. Measured, thoughtful, grounded. Your silence also carries a prophetic quality. Without speaking, you disrupt patterns. Without confronting, you change dynamics. When you no longer react the way people expect, they are forced to adjust. This adjustment often leads to reflection. They revisit conversations. They question motives. They feel the weight of your absence where your reactions once were. Silence leaves space for conviction to do its work. There were moments when staying silent felt like dying to yourself. Your pride wanted to speak. Your emotions wanted release. Your humanity wanted acknowledgement. But you chose obedience over relief, and that choice matured you. Jesus said, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself. Matthew 16:24. Silence is sometimes an act of self-denial that produces spirit. Use strength. In prayer, you now spend more time listening than talking. You are no longer rushing through words to fill the space. You wait. You breathe. You allow God to minister to you. This posture deepens intimacy. Relationships grow deeper in quiet moments, not just conversations. The same is true with God. Silence has made your faith more personal, more real, more rooted. People are extremely attracted to your silence because it reflects integrity. You are the same in private as you are in public. You don't perform righteousness, you live it. You don't advertise growth, you embody it. That authenticity is rare. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. Matthew 5:37, simplicity of speech often reflects clarity of heart. Your silence has also taught you patience. You no longer rush outcomes. You trust process. You allow God to unfold things in His timing. This patience spills into every area of your life. Work, relationships, decisions. You are not anxious to arrive. You are content to walk. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Isaiah 4:31. Waiting has renewed you. Emotionally, this has healed old patterns of overgiving and over-explaining. You no longer feel responsible for managing other people's perceptions of you. You release that burden daily. That release brings peace. Peace becomes your compass. If a conversation threatens your peace, you reconsider it. If an explanation costs your peace, you pause. Peace is now how you earn alignment. And still, silence continues to teach you. It teaches you humility because you accept that not everyone will understand you. It teaches you courage because you stand firm without applause. It teaches you love because you choose restraint over reaction. Love is not always loud. Charity suffereth long and is kind. 1 Corinthians 13:4. Long-suffering often happens quietly. As you walk forward, there will be new levels of attraction, not rooted in appearance or performance, but in presence. People will seek your company because they feel calmer around you. They will trust your counsel because you don't speak recklessly. They will value your words because you don't waste them. Silence has increased your worth, not diminished it. And through it all, God remains at the center. He is the reason your silence is powerful. Without Him, silence would be emptiness. With Him, it is fullness. With Him, it is strength under control. With Him, it is wisdom in motionless form. You are not quiet because you have nothing to say. You are quiet because you know when it matters. This journey is ongoing. There are still moments ahead where silence will be required again, refined again, trusted again, and each time it will carry you deeper, deeper into wisdom, deeper into peace, deeper into alignment with God's will. Your silence is not fading, it is evolving, becoming more intentional, more discerning, more powerful as you continue to walk forward in faith. And as you continue, walking in this quiet strength, you begin to notice that your silence no longer feels like something you are holding back. It feels like something that is holding you together. It stabilizes you when emotions rise. It centers you when circumstances shift. It anchors you when opinions swirl. You are no longer tossed back and forth by what people say or don't say, do or don't do. You have found a still place within, and that still place has become sacred ground. There was a time when silence felt dangerous because you feared being overlooked or forgotten. You worried that if you didn't speak up, your needs would go unmet, your truth would be buried, your presence would be ignored. But God has shown you that what is truly meant for you cannot miss you. What is divinely aligned does not require constant explanation or defense. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Mark 10:9. Silence has taught you trust, not in people, but in providence. People are extremely attracted to your silence because it reveals self-control. In a culture that celebrates impulsivity and emotional exposure, restraint feels powerful. You no longer allow your feelings to control your behavior. You feel them fully, but you filter them through wisdom. That discipline shows maturity. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. Proverbs 2:9-11. Wisdom knows that not every thought deserves a voice. Your silence also communicates safety. People feel they can breathe around you. You don't pressure them to perform or respond immediately. You don't overwhelm them with words. You give space, and space is rare. Space allows authenticity to surface. Space allows truth to emerge. Space allows God to work without interference. Silence creates that space. Spiritually, you are learning that silence is a form of surrender. You surrender the urge to control outcomes. You surrender the need to manage perceptions. You surrender the desire to be right at the cost of peace. This surrender is not loss, it is alignment. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and He shall sustain thee. Psalm 5:22. Silence is often how you cast that burden. There are moments when people test your silence. They provoke, they question, they push, hoping to pull you back into old patterns, but you remain steady. Not because you are indifferent, but because you are intentional. You have learned that reaction gives access. Silence sets boundaries. Boundaries protect peace. Peace protects purpose. Emotionally, you are no longer drained the way you once were. Conversations no longer leave you exhausted. Conflicts no longer linger in your spirit for days. You have learned when to disengage without guilt. This emotional health did not come easily. It came through tears, reflection, prayer, and self-awareness. God healed you layer by layer, and silence was one of the tools He used. Your silence has also refined your compassion. You listen more deeply now. You notice tone, body, language, and unspoken pain. Because you are not rushing to respond, you are fully present. Presence is one of the greatest gifts you can offer. Jesus was often silent, yet deeply attentive. He noticed the woman at the well. He noticed Zacchaeus in the tree. He noticed the woman who touched the hem of His garment. Silence sharpens awareness. In romantic spaces, your silence has shifted the power dynamic. You no longer chase clarity. You allow consistency to speak. You no longer beg for understanding. You observe behavior. This shift invites respect. When you stop explaining your worth, others begin to recognize it. When you stop demanding reassurance, authentic connection either rises or falls away. Silence reveals truth. In family relationships, your silence has broken cycles. Where arguments once escalated, calm now interrupts. Where explanations once fueled misunderstanding, stillness now diffuses tension. You are no longer trying to change people through words. You are changing the environment through peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Matthew 5:9. Peacemaking is often quiet work. Spiritually, God continues to trust you with more because you have proven faithful with restraint. You are not reckless with words. You are not impulsive with emotion. You are teachable. You are listening. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Matthew 11:15. Hearing requires silence. Your silence has also revealed who truly values you. Some people were only comfortable with you when you were explaining, fixing, accommodating. When you grew quiet, they grew distant. That loss hurt, but it also clarified. You learned that not everyone is meant to walk with you into maturity. Some were assigned to a previous version of you. Silence helped you let go without confrontation. Emotionally, this letting go created space for healthier connections. You no longer overextend yourself to maintain relationships that drain you. You allow reciprocity to be the standard. If effort is one-sided, you step back without bitterness. This emotional balance is a sign of growth. Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Proverbs 4:23. Silence guards your heart. Your silence also strengthens your discernment in leadership. People look to you for guidance because you are not reactive. You consider before you speak. You weigh words carefully. When you do speak, it is intentional and impactful. Leaders who speak less but listen more often carry greater influence. Influence is built on trust, not noise. There are moments when God will prompt you to speak again, and when He does, your words will carry clarity, not chaos. Authority, not emotion. Love, not defense. Silence has prepared you for that moment. Just as Jesus spoke with authority because He first walked in obedience, your words will matter because you learned restraint first. As you continue forward, silence becomes a companion, not a weepo. You don't use it to punish or withdraw. You use it to align and protect. It is gentle, not cold, grounded, not distant. People feel that difference. They know your silence is not rejection, it is wisdom. This journey has shaped you into someone who no longer fears quiet seasons. You no longer rush to fill gaps. You trust that God works even when nothing seems to be happening. The vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarry, wait for it. Habakkuk 2:3. Waiting has become familiar territory. And so you continue, not striving, not proving, not performing, but resting, discerning, and trusting. Your silence walks with you into new rooms, new relationships, new assignments. It announces nothing, yet it changes everything. And in this continued unfolding, you begin to recognize that silence has reshaped your inner posture toward life itself. You are no longer rushing moments, no longer anxious to arrive at conclusions. You allow things to breathe. You allow people to reveal themselves. You allow God to work without interruption. This patience is not passive, it is powerful. It is the patience of someone who knows that what is built slowly is built to last. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Ecclesiastes 7:8. Your silence has taught you how to wait without resentment. Waiting used to feel like punishment, like delay meant denial, but now waiting feels purposeful. You understand T? Had God often does His deepest work in the unseen, in the quiet spaces where no applause exists. Roots grow underground before fruit appears above. Silence is where roots strengthen. Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. Jeremiah 17:7. Trust matures best in quiet soil. People continue to be drawn to you because your presence feels unforced. You are not trying to impress. You are not trying to persuade. You are not trying to convince. You simply are. That authenticity disarms people. They feel safe to be themselves around you because you are not performing either. Silence removes pressure. Pressure suffocates connection. Peace invites it. Spiritually, you have grown comfortable with mystery. You don't demand immediate answers from God the way you once did. You ask, then you wait. You trust that clarity will come at the right time. Faith has matured from needing explanations to resting in assurance. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Silence aligns perfectly with faith because both require trust beyond sight. Emotionally, you have become more compassionate with yourself. You no longer judge your own quiet moments as weakness. You no longer shame yourself for needing space. You understand that rest is holy, reflection is healthy, and solitude is necessary. Even Jesus withdrew to quiet places to pray, and he withdrew himself into the wilderness and prayed. Luke 5:16. If silence was essential for him, it is sacred for you too. Your silence has also shifted how you handle disappointment. Instead of reacting immediately, you process inwardly. You take disappointments to God first, not people. This protects your heart from unnecessary exposure and preserves your peace. Not everyone deserves access to your wounds. Silence helps you choose wisely. A prudent man concealeth knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaimeth foolishness. Proverbs 12:23. In conversations now, you notice how much others talk. You hear the fear beneath their words, the insecurity beneath their explanations, the longing beneath their opinions. Silence has given you insight. You don't interrupt. You don't rush to correct. You listen, because listening reveals more than speaking ever could. Listening has become an act of love. Your quiet strength also challenges others. Some feel inspired by it. Others feel exposed by it. Not everyone is comfortable around someone who does not need validation. Silence removes the masks in the room. When you are no longer playing the game becomes obvious. This can make people uneasy, but it also creates opportunities for truth. In romantic relationships, your silence has deepened intimacy rather than diminished it. You no longer confuse intensity with connection. You understand that depth grows in safety, not urgency. You allow love to unfold naturally. You give space for mutual pursuit rather than chasing. This balance fosters respect. Let all your things be done with charity. 1 Corinthians 16:14. Love that is patient and quiet is still love. In friendships, your silence has refined your circle. You are no longer surrounded by noise, but by understanding. You value quality over quantity. You choose conversations that nourish rather than drain. Silence has helped you recognize which connections are aligned with your growth and which belong to a previous season. Spiritually, you have learned that silence is sometimes obedience. God does not always ask you to speak. Sometimes He asks you to trust. Sometimes He asks you to step back and let Him step in. When you obey this prompting, you witness His faithfulness in ways words could never achieve. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Exodus 14:30. Stillness often precedes deliverance. Your silence has also taught you humility. You accept that you do not have all the answers. You are open to learning. You are teachable. Pride demands to be heard. Humility is content to listen. God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. Silence positions you for grace. Emotionally, you are no longer as reactive to criticism. Opinions that once wounded you now pass through without lodging in your spirit. You evaluate feedback without absorbing negativity. This emotional resilience is a fruit of silence. When your identity is anchored in God, external voices lose their power. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Isaiah 41:10. Your silence has become a testimony even when you don't speak about it. People observe the change. They notice your calm responses, your steady demeanor, your grounded presence. They may not know the journey that brought you here, but they feel the result. God is glorified in this quiet transformation. As you continue forward, silence becomes less about withholding and more about alignment. You speak when led. You stay quiet when guided. You are sensitive to the Spirit's prompting. This sensitivity keeps you from unnecessary battles and draws you into meaningful ones. Discernment sharpens with practice, and silence is part of that discipline. There will be future moments when silence feels heavy again, when you are tempted to revert to old habits. But you now recognize the peace that silence brings, and you choose it intentionally. You have tasted the fruit of restraint, and you are unwilling to trade it for momentary relief. Your journey is ongoing. Silence continues to shape you, strengthen you, prepare you. It is refining your character, deepening your faith, expanding your capacity for love. You are becoming someone who carries peace into chaos, clarity into confusion, and stability into uncertainty, without needing to announce it. And so you walk on, quietly confident, deeply rooted, spiritually aware. Your silence moves with you, not as absence, but as presence, full, intentional, alive with purpose. And with every step forward, you discover that silence has become a language you speak. It speaks fluently. It communicates before you open your mouth. It settles rooms before conversations begin. It carries a depth that words would only dilute. You are no longer intimidated by pauses in dialogue or gaps in understanding. You let them exist. You trust that what is true does not need to rush. Truth has a way of standing on its own. There is a calm authority that now rests on you, not because you demand respect, but because you embody it. Authority grows where self-control lives, when you no longer feel compelled to interrupt, correct, or defend. You demonstrate mastery over yourself. Scripture affirms this quiet strength when it says, "He that ruleth his spirit is better than he that taketh a city." Proverbs 16:32. You are ruling your spirit daily, and that victory is shaping your destiny. Silence has also refined your sensitivity to timing. You are learning that even the right word spoken at the wrong time can do damage. Timing is wisdom's companion. You wait until peace confirms, until clarity settles, until love leads. This patience protects relationships from unnecessary strain and preserves truth from being weaponized. Jesus often waited before speaking, even when pressed. His silence was not confusion, it was discernment. Emotionally, you have grown more secure in uncertainty. You no longer panic when answers are delayed. You no longer rush to conclusions when information is incomplete. You are comfortable saying, even within yourself, "I don't know yet." That honesty brings peace. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding, Proverbs 3:5. Silence creates space for trust to breathe. Your silence has also softened you, not hardened you. It has not turned you cold or distant. It has made you gentle and grounded. Gentleness is strength under control. It is the ability to respond without aggression, to hold firm without hostility. The meek shall inherit the earth, Matthew 5:5. Meekness is not weakness, it is disciplined power. In moments of conflict, your silence disarms escalation. When others raise their voices, you lower yours, or choose quiet altogether. This shift changes outcomes. Arguments lose fuel. Tension loses the momentum. Calm becomes contagious. You are not trying to win debates, you are preserving peace. Peace is no longer negotiable for you. Spiritually, silence has increased your reverence for God's presence. You no longer rush prayer. You sit with Scripture. You meditate. You allow God's word to speak into you rather than rushing to speak about it. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, Colossians 3:16. Rich dwelling requires stillness. Silence is how the word sinks deep. You also notice that silence has sharpened your gratitude. When life slows down, you notice small mercies. You notice breath, provision, timing, protection. You thank God quietly for things others overlook. Gratitude deepens joy. Joy strengthens faith. Silence makes room for both. In leadership and influence, your quiet consistency builds trust. People observe your steadiness over time. They see that you are not driven by trends or reactions. You move with conviction. When decisions come, they are thoughtful, prayerful, and measured. This kind of leadership lasts. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety, Proverbs 11:14. Silence allows counsel to be heard. Your silence has also healed your relationship with yourself. You are no longer at war internally. The constant mental chatter has softened. You are kinder to your thoughts. You give yourself permission to pause. This inner peace reflects outwardly. People sense it when they are around you. Peace attracts what aligns and repels what disrupts. There are still moments when silence feels misunderstood. Some assume distance when you are simply discerning. Some interpret restraint as indifference. You accept this without resentment. You understand that clarity does not always come immediately, and that is okay. Even Jesus was misunderstood in his silence. Understanding is not always the goal, obedience is. Your silence continues to refine your faith. You believe God is working even when you cannot see movement. You trust that unseen prayers are being answered in unseen ways. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Silence walks well with faith because both require surrender. As you grow, you also recognize when silence must give way to speech. Discernment tells you when to speak life, when to offer correction, when to encourage. And because you have learned silence, your words land gently but firmly. They heal rather than harm. They guide rather than accuse. Pleasant words are as an honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones. Proverbs 16:24. Your silence has become a sanctuary for others. People confide in you because you do not rush to judge. You hold space without trying to fix everything. This presence ministers more than advice ever could. Sometimes the greatest gift is simply being there quietly. God often uses this kind of presence to heal hearts. Emotionally, you are no longer afraid of being alone with your thoughts. Solitude has become a place of restoration rather than fear. You meet God there. You meet yourself there. Growth happens there. Silence has turned solitude into strength. As seasons change, silence adapts with you. It looks different in joy than it does in grief, different in waiting than in fulfillment. But it remains faithful. It continues to guide you back to center when life pulls you outward. It reminds you who you are and whose you are. Your journey is still unfolding. Silence is still teaching, still shaping, still preparing you for what is ahead. You do not rush the process. You walk steadily, trusting that each quiet step is leading somewhere meaningful. God is at work in ways words cannot capture, and your silence continues to make room for that holy work to unfold. And as you keep moving forward in this quiet obedience, you begin to sense that silence has become a shield around your spirit. It guards you from unnecessary exposure. It filters what reaches your heart. Not every comment enters. Not every opinion settles. You have learned that protection is not always about confrontation. Sometimes it is about discretion. Jesus told his disciples to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, and wisdom often knows when silence is safer than speech. You now recognize that silence has preserved your joy. In the past, too many words cost you peace. Too many explanations drained your energy. Too many reactions pulled you into emotional cycles that left you weary. But now joy stays longer. Calm settles deeper. You're in. Our world feels stable. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Isaiah 26:3. Trust has anchored your mind, and silence has helped keep it there. There are moments when God allows you to see the fruit of your quiet growth. Someone responds differently to you than they used to. A situation that once escalated now dissolves quickly. A relationship matures without force. You realize that your silence changed the tone. It shifted the atmosphere. It created space for God to move where words once blocked him. This realization humbles you. You see how powerful obedience can be when it looks simple. Emotionally, you have stopped chasing emotional closure from people. You no longer need them to explain themselves perfectly or understand you completely. You have found closure in God's presence. You have learned that peace does not require agreement. Sometimes it requires release. Silence has helped you release expectations that were never promised to you. That release feels like freedom. Your silence has also trained you to observe patterns rather than promises. You no longer cling to words spoken in moments of emotion. You watch consistency. You notice behavior. You allow time to reveal truth. This discernment protects your heart from disappointment and confusion. By their fruits ye shall know them. Matthew 7:16. Silence gives you the patience to see fruit. Spiritually, you are more aware of the Holy Spirit's promptings. There are moments when you feel the nudge to remain quiet, even when everything in you wants to speak. You obey, and later you understand why. What felt urgent was not necessary. What felt pressing was not profitable. Obedience in silence saves you from regret. Your silence has also reshaped your prayers. You no longer pray from panic. You pray from trust. You don't rush God with timelines. You present your heart and wait. Waiting has become an act of worship. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Psalm 2:7-14. Courage grows in waiting, not rushing. People who once expected access to every part of you now notice the shift. They sense boundaries where there were none before. Some respect it, some resist it. Either way, you no longer feel the need to explain your growth. Growth does not require permission. Silence lets transformation speak for itself. In moments of misunderstanding, you choose restraint over retaliation. You allow God to clarify what you could never convince. This requires faith. It requires believing that God is invested in your integrity more than you are, and he proves himself faithful. Over time, truth surfaces, light exposes, silence gives truth room to rise.